The night was darker than any Lani could remember. The wind outside whispered through the trees, its voice a cold, unnatural hiss that seemed to seep into the walls of her old creaking house. Lani, short for Leilani, stood at the kitchen sink, staring out into the black abyss beyond the window. Her sons, AJ, Jeremiah, Zane, and Niko, were asleep upstairs, their soft breaths barely audible beneath the groaning of the floorboards. She thought she saw a shadow move across the lawn, a flicker in the periphery of her vision. Her heart quickened, but when she looked again, just the empty darkness, stretching out into the trees. Lani shook her head, trying to shake the creeping dread that had settled in her chest. It was just her imagination. She'd been feeling off for days, an unease that gnawed at her. Perhaps it was the isolation. The house, nestled deep in the woods, was miles from the nearest neighbor, and the silence at night had become heavy, like a thick blanket suffocating her senses. She turned away from the window, flipping off the light, and the kitchen plunged into darkness. The moonlight barely filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows on the floor. As she made her way to the stairs, she paused, hearing something, a soft, rhythmic tapping coming from the back door. Tap, tap, tap. Her breath caught in her throat. Lani felt the hair on the back of her neck rise. She swallowed, forcing herself to move, telling herself it was nothing more than a loose shutter flapping in the wind. She stepped forward, inching closer to the door, her bare feet silent on the cold tiles. But the closer she got, the more she realized it wasn't the wind. The taps were too deliberate, too measured. Tap, tap, tap. It sounded like fingers, knocking. "Hello?" she called out softly, her voice barely a whisper. No response, just the tapping, more insistent now. Her hand hovered over the door handle, and she hesitated. Something in her gut told her not to open it, but she had to know. With a trembling breath, she slowly unlocked the door and pulled it open. The wind rushed in, cold and sharp, but there was no one there. She leaned out, her eyes scanning the empty porch, the shadows stretching into the forest beyond. The trees swayed gently, whispering in the breeze, but there was no movement, no sign of anyone. She exhaled, feeling foolish, and started to close the door when a voice, low and rasping, whispered from the darkness. "Lani." She froze. It was barely audible, but it was there. Her name carried on the wind. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she slammed the door shut, locking it quickly. She stood there, breathing hard, trying to convince herself it was just her mind playing tricks on her. The tapping stopped, and the house fell silent again. She turned, her eyes drawn to the staircase, where a faint light spilled down from the hallway above. The boys. She had to check on them. Pushing her fear aside, she hurried upstairs, her footsteps light and quick. The hallway was empty, but something felt wrong. The air was thick, like the weight of a storm about to break. She opened AJ's door first. Her oldest son lay there, fast asleep, his chest rising and falling steadily. She moved on to Jeremiah's room next. Same thing. The boys were fine. Her nerves were just getting the better of her. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. But when she reached Zane's room, the door creaked open, and she hesitated. Zane's bed was empty. The blankets were tossed aside as if he'd gotten up in a hurry. Lani's pulse quickened, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She hurried to the last room, Niko's. The door was slightly ajar, and she pushed it open with a trembling hand. Her youngest son was curled up in his bed, but something was wrong. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. She rushed to his side, shaking him gently. "Niko, honey, what's wrong?" she whispered. He didn't move, didn't even blink, but his mouth began to move, forming words she couldn't hear. She leaned in closer, her ear inches from his lips when she heard it. A whisper, like the rustling of dead leaves. "Mom? It's in the house." She jerked back, her heart racing. "What's in the house, Niko?" His eyes remained fixed on the ceiling, unblinking, and his voice, now hoarse and strained, continued. "It came for Zane first. It's hiding, waiting for you." Her stomach dropped, and a cold sweat broke out on her skin. "Where's Zane?" she demanded, shaking him harder. But Niko's body went limp, his eyes rolling back as he fell unconscious. She stood, the panic clawing at her throat. She raced out of the room, calling for Zane, her voice echoing down the empty hallway. "Zane, where are you?" And then she saw it. At the end of the hallway, just outside the attic door, stood a shadow, a tall, twisted figure with impossibly long limbs. Its head tilted to one side, and in its hand, it held something small and limp. Her eyes adjusted, and she realized with a shock of horror that it was Zane's teddy bear, dangling from the creature's grasp. Lani's breath caught. "Zane?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The shadow's head snapped up, and two glowing eyes burned in the darkness. They locked onto her, and she felt a chill seep into her bones. It wasn't human. It was wrong. Something ancient. Something that didn't belong in this world. Slowly, it lifted a long finger and pointed down the hall straight at her. She took a step back, her hands shaking. "Leave us alone," she screamed, her voice cracking. But the creature didn't move. It just watched, its eyes burning with an unnatural hunger. And then, in a voice that echoed through the walls, it whispered, "Run." Lani turned and fled, racing down the stairs as the air grew colder, the darkness creeping closer. She could hear the creak of the floorboards above her, the sound of something heavy and unnatural moving. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she reached the kitchen, grabbing her phone, but the screen was blank. No signal. The lights flickered, and she saw a shadow dart across the doorway. She spun around, searching for any sign of her sons. "AJ, Jeremiah, Zane, Niko," she called, her voice cracking, but there was no response. Suddenly, the shadows began to pool around her feet, dark tendrils snaking up from the floorboards, cold as ice. She screamed, trying to pull away, but they gripped her ankles, pulling her down. She struggled, clawing at the walls, but the darkness swallowed her, dragging her into the depths of the house. As she was pulled down, she heard it again. A whisper, this time from all around her. "Leilani, we have your sons." Her scream echoed in the darkness, and the last thing she saw before everything went black was the shadowy figure at the top of the stairs, watching, its eyes burning like embers, as it whispered her name one final time. "Welcome home."